now that I know the ending, to clarify about the Butch and Sundance type ending, I think the subtext to that was that I wanted peace for Sam and Dean, whether it was alive or dead. I didn't want them to be ghosts in the veil, or locked up in hell, or even drugged in heaven, or not drugged, but you know what I mean, and living a fake life of all their best memories in heaven. I want to just carry on my wayward son. There will be peace when you are done. Whatever done means, I wanted them to be done more than dead. Not saying whether or not they are simply done or dead in the end. I feel like, as the end currently stands, they have found a version of peace. And that makes me happy. Also, I believe in 14 years, the final episode that was written, or, exploding dot, in the head of whoever was running the show at the time, whether it was Eric or Sarah or Jeremy or Andrew and Bob. I feel like the final episode of the season has never been what they thought it was going to be. Episode 1 of the season. I know that Genevieve was supposed to be in like 4 episodes, and she ended up getting killed by Dean. You know what I mean? So I think that's one example. But I feel like it's never been. I'm very pleased with the current ending. I'm also. It's a coin toss on whether or not that becomes the actual end. You know what I mean? So this early on, I haven't even filmed yet, so we still have a long way to go.
How quickly did you come to a consensus that this is the right time to end the show?
It was a conversation, and I think it's been said, so I'll man up and admit to it. It was, and it sounds arrogant, but it was Jensen and my choice, decision. We were welcomed back, and I think Mark Pedowitz said that we were, and he wasn't, I'm trying to say, Mark Pedowitz wasn't lying when he said the show will go as long as Jared and Jensen wanted to go. And he allowed us to find out, or come to our consensus. It took a long time, years. We've been talking about it. It's such a weird thing to say, because especially as an actor, you're like hoping for an audition, to hope for the 1 in 100 chance to get a call back, to hope that somebody thinks you did a decent job, to hope for a job for 3 days.
We're on the clock, man.
We're on the clock, man.
We're on the clock. We're getting gold here. Come on.
Now you know what it's
Nobody's going to listen to the words.
It's a record.
Now you know what it's like to pick out your own set. It was a long, we talked about it for a long time. It was a very weird transition to basically beg for a job for years and years and years, to pray to Chuck that it gets picked up for years and years and years, and then get to a place where they're now saying to you, like, hey, you want to do some more? I never thought I'd be given this responsibility. I don't know how I feel about that. It took a long time. And I think sometime, I honestly think it was sometime season 13 where Jensen and I kind of looked at each other and went like 2-1. I think, and he could correct me. And there's, it's really weird. This is maybe a bad analogy, but I had to put down a dog that I've had she was going to turn 16 in March, and I had to put her down in January. And it was a different situation because she was blind and deaf. I'm not saying like, well, now Supernatural's blind and deaf and pooping itself when it sleeps. Like that's not to say I felt like Supernatural is still strong, but Sadie, my girl, she was still alive. Like she was still living. She just couldn't hold her faculties, and she couldn't walk, and she couldn't hear, and she couldn't see. But she was just like, we took her to the vet, and the vet would be like, she's really feeling well. Like she is not unhealthy, So it was a weird. And then it kind of, she deteriorated. Supernatural's not deteriorating, I guess is the difference. But it came to the point of like, okay, I think this is the right time. Like it's a weird decision. And then I'm going to sell him out. When Jensen got to Vancouver 2 weeks ago, I have a text message from him. He's like, "Man, crazy being back in Vancouver. I feel like we could do 2 more years." And I was like, "Let's talk, man." Like, I certainly
We're
don't.
there for you.
I know.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to be. I don't want it to be like Lord of the Rings that had like 15 endings.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, I think it's really difficult. It's really difficult. But I do feel like I'm gonna get back on set and be like, why are we not coming back here? You know. But it took a long time. We certainly talked about it ending for years. We talked about it ending for 14 years.
Yeah.
You know, whether by our hands or somebody else's hands, or by happenstance, or by the network getting bought out, or whatever. You know. So we've been dancing with death for 14 years, much like the Winchester brothers, never knowing when it was going to be time.
When Mark said that it was going to be that you and Jensen could be the ones to decide, it would go as long as you want to go, was that a blessing or a curse?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
That's a lot in your shoes, I imagine.
It almost, I mean, he meant it. Pedowitz, for those who haven't met him, is a phenomenal man.
Yeah.
Great guy, great family man, brilliant businessman, and kind and honest. And the things that he's said that he was going to do, like he's been, you work for people that don't necessarily stick by what they say. They say it just so, like, win one for the Gipper kind of situation. He meant it. I guess it was more of a blessing, though it certainly was difficult,
right.
To have that responsibility. And it wasn't just like Jensen and I made the decision together, and then we talked with Mark and Peter and Bob. Like, it wasn't like we showed up and like, peace, we're out. So it was more involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you ever do a series in the future?
I hope not. I hope not. We'll see if there's something. I've been fortunate enough to work for 20 years, as you know. We've been known each other for a long time now. We'll see. If there's a story that comes across my desk that I feel really passionate about, I guess I'll have a talk with my real boss, Genevieve, and my 3 loudest employees, Tom, Shep, and Odette, and or dependents. It's gonna. We'll see. We'll see. I'm looking for gainful employment by any means.
It'd be hard to top.
It'd be impossible to top this. I'll never have this again, no doubt. If there is a story that I'm lucky enough to audition for or take a meeting for that I really believe in, then I'll do it again.
Well, you've said you might want to produce.
Yeah.
You've said you might want to retire. You said you'd look for movies. I mean, it's been. Do you know anything closer to?
I don't know anything about anything. I would love to. Honestly, if I didn't have a mortgage, I would love to never be in front of a camera again. But that having been said, I do love telling stories. I love storytelling, and I love learning. I love what I get to learn in the process of storytelling. It's made me, I think, a better person, father, husband, friend, son, brother, driver. So, though I still have work to do there, probably. I'm trying to toe the line between. I don't want to sound ungrateful. Like, I'm so on stage, I couldn't help but tear up and think like I'm the most lucky dude on the planet. Like, met my wife and had some healthy, beautiful kids, and was able to buy a house and able to buy clothes that like this gave me my dearest friends. So I don't want to sound like I'm not outrageously grateful for that. I'd like to meet my wife and kids, and I don't know if I can do that 9 months a year in Vancouver. And they probably don't want to meet me. Like, wait, why are you here? Why are you here so much? When do you go back to? Hey, Daddy, when do you go back to work? So we'll see. If I get an opportunity that I believe in, then I'd love to try and be a part of it.
Jensen mentioned that last night you guys talked quite a bit about, this is your last holiday situation. Going up there, being on the stage, and now being off the stage, was that more nerve-wracking than usual? Do you feel a sense of relief now? Like,
I walked on stage like, there's a weird feeling when 7,000 people start clapping for you before you come out of a curtain. And honestly, it's intoxicating. You're like, I'm badass. You know, like, it's just impossible to not have an endorphin rush of like, Jesus, I'm even cooler than I thought I was. And I think I'm pretty cool. Just kidding, kidding. But then I kind of started having like out of body experiences when I started remembering like, man, this is it. Like I kind of wanted to sit out there with my phone and just film like my perspective, you know? I almost did. And then Spate and Benedict were like, hey, we're going to bring you and Jensen out together because it's you guys. And I was like, you should. So I wasn't going to walk out holding the phone. If it was just me, I would have been like, hey, this is what it's, you know. But walking out with my brother, you know, I'm not going to be holding the phone. I'll have it here forever. It was a really humbling experience. And became like terrifyingly emotional. And Misha and Jensen and I were all like, no crying, man. Like, no crying. Like, fuck, we're not going to cry. It's dirt. Yeah, you couldn't help but get emotional. Just the feeling of gratitude. Like, who's this lucky dude?
I'm sorry. Yes, I was going to say real quick before they shut us off. As the show went on 15 years, went on so long, did it become harder or easier to sustain it, to keep the engine going?
Interesting. We became more efficient at it. I suppose easier because logistically, we were better at learning lines. We knew our characters really well. We were able to fight for different storylines that were already established. You know, the growing pains in the beginning are real. Like, you know, in episode 3 of this series, you could say, what was the demon thing? To find you had to say a word, and you could find it, like in Phantom Traveler on the airplane, Cristo. Like, and then, you know, you spend 8 days making it, and you Cristo, and find out who's a demon or who's not a demon. And then they do all the visual effects, special effects, all the editing. We do all the voiceover for it, and then it airs, and go like, that's kind of a cheat code. We probably shouldn't have that in the rest of the series. You know, it's like the growing pains were legit. And so as it went on, it became such a family down south in the writer's room and producers and up north on the ground that it became like second nature, you know. And I think it's not. And some people I think tune out and stop caring so much. That's not why Jensen and I do the show. Like with some actors, you can't really blame them, I suppose. But we were always so passionate about the story and these characters that we get to portray that we never. There's a saying called phoning it in, you know. So we never felt like I'm just going to phone this one in. It was more like, how can we make this fucking cool? Which was from the get. So I feel like it became easier.
I think that you guys would make a point to work together again because you work together so well.
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, 100%.
Looking to do it? I mean, are you guys talking about it now even?
Not just yet. I think we still, you know, if this is the final game of the semifinals, we're not talking about who we're going to play in the finals just yet. You know, we still have. You know, this is 5 minutes to go in the World Cup final, and we're tied. You know, so we're not talking about overtime or the shootout just yet. We did talk about it last night that like whatever is or isn't next. I mean, if he calls me and says like, "Hey, I'm producing this or directing this, and I need a dude with a big forehead," I'll be like, "When and where, man? Like, pay me what you can and tell me what flight I'm on. Like, where do I go?" And vice versa. So anytime, whether he's a director or an actor, and whether he wants me to help produce it or direct it or cast it, I honestly feel like I'd be best out of everything in the business in casting, and maybe that's as a producer casting. But I feel like when Leslie Odom was on the show, you know, you're like. They can act when Sterling was like, that guy's going places. You know, we've had people, even Alden, who didn't have lines, and Wendigo, I was like, dude's good, he's smart. You know, and sure enough, I feel like I'm better at recognizing talent than being like the guy with the talent kind of thing. So even if, in whatever capacity he wants me to come work with him, absolutely, and vice versa. I haven't really thought about it yet, just because we still got a steep hill to climb. So we're kind of focusing on the task at hand.
What would you like people to remember about Sam, about Jared, and about the show?
I think that answer is all the same.
Just wrap it
That, pardon my French, you can fuck up and still be good. You can fuck up and keep going. You know, like, pain is mandatory, suffering is optional. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have setbacks. Try and keep going. Always keep fighting. You know, the idea of no matter what you're up against, like, keep on, like, do what you can to keep on going. It's difficult, you know, whether you have beautiful, wealthy people who commit suicide, and you have people who aren't as fortunate, who are the happiest on the planet. Like, what, for me, it's working towards that mindset of, like, you know what, I'm going to try and do the best I can, be loyal and grateful for what I have and those around me, and try and keep one foot in front of the other. And I feel like that about, I hope that's what Sam means to people. I hope it's what Jared means to people. I hope it's what Supernatural ends up meaning to people. We'll see. We have 20 more episodes, so enjoy our damn best.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you guys.